Hey y'all, it's Natalie for A Cherry on Top Crafts today, and I am using the new Cedar House collection by American Crafts to scrapbook this photo of my nephew Wally. Look how cute he is. And I have a title that I cut out of with my Cricut. And there you see I have a basic background by Simple Stories. It's just like a ledger paper. The one side's wood grain and one side is like either grid or ledger. And so this one is a cream ledger paper. So the Cedar House collection is a little grungier, a little more on the creamy side. And he's wearing his Sad Beige Baby David Rose onesie. So I decided that was my background. I'm trying to figure out my placement here. And so I start playing around with this. And then I'm like, what if I put that on either side of his photo? And so this I feel like is maybe a design that I wouldn't normally do. And I absolutely love it. I'm super happy with how it turned out. And so I'm like, step outside your comfort zone sometimes, okay? Like try to do something a little bit different sometimes, because you might end up really loving it. So I'm going through the 6x8 paper pad Cedar House by American Crafts, and I'm pulling out a few papers that I want to layer behind the photo. So I have this one with cassette tapes, and it's like pretty, it's like colorful. And then I got that amber yellow color, and then I have a wood grain, and then I have the photo, the like old-timey cameras, and that's going to kind of be a recurring theme on the page. So I am just tearing into the 6x8 papers and deciding kind of where I want them to sit and how big I want them to be, just to make sure that I will be able to see them around the photo. And that's just kind of like what I'm visualizing here. That one yellow paper is a little bit foiled, so it has like some nice gold that you can see shining in the light there. So I'm really liking the way that looks. And then I'm going to use that photo paper just to mat the I keep saying photo, I mean camera, the camera paper to mat the photo. And then I'll use it again in a few places around the layout. I'm just kind of getting a rough idea of how I want the layers to go. You know, sometimes I see people do layering and it seems so flawless to them. And I find it really difficult, which seems so silly, right? Because I'm just trying to like put a few things to stick out around the paper. It seems like it should be pretty easy, but in fact, it's not in my experience maybe. But as you can see, we had a changing of the guard with the ATG gun, but now I am bagging the photo. I took this picture of Wally at my house. It was the first time he came over, and I babysat him while his parents left, and they were actually just going down the road to the theater to see my son perform, but he probably wouldn't have been able to sit through that very well. So he stayed home with Auntie and Uncle Beardface, and we snuggled and played, and it was so fun. And there I am roughing up the edges of all of those pattern papers now. And then I'm going to go back in. I'm going to grab my Waffle Flower Crafts blending brush, the yellow one, and I'm going to add some Distress Oxide to the edges of that paper. And that's what you see me doing here. So Distress Oxide takes a little bit of time to dry, so I set them off to the side because I don't want the oxide to get onto the background of my paper. That's why I set them up there to dry. Now I'm going to work on the background of the paper. So I have my Tim Holtz Bubble Clean stamp. So that's what you see me grabbing here. And it comes with its own acrylic block, you might say. It's not really a block. It's not really thick. I wanted to keep the background a little bit muted with just a few pops of color. So I'm using antique linen, which is basically beige, very, very light. I'm going to spritz it. And then I'm just going to like press it around the page in a few different ways, do multiple generation stamping. I don't need one solid image. I don't need one perfect image. I want it to look distressed, but I'm kind of centering it in the middle of the page here. I'm happy with how it looks. You can even see it's a little dingy because it looks like I had used some black ink on it before and I didn't maybe clean it off so well. But that's okay for what I'm going with. It actually really works. So I let that dry, but we're going to add more. Don't you worry. I'm just kind of putting the title on there, making sure that's how I want it before I add additional stamping. I did go ahead and pull out the Cedar House die cut ephemera, and that I set aside the pieces I wanted to use. I knew I wanted my layers in exactly those spots, so I picked them up and I stuck a staple in the middle. I learned that trick from Missy Wooden, and that way they will kind of stay there. And then, of course, when I put the photo on top, it will hide the staple. But first, we're going to add a little bit more stamping to the background. So I have this vintage camera stamp. So it's very reminiscent of the vintage cameras on the paper that I used out of the paper pad. So I'm just going to stamp. There's 2 different stamps on this stamp that I had. So I'm going to use the 2 different stamps and do multi-generation stamping just in the 2 corners. I'm just trying to bring some of the stamping outside of this perfect rectangle in the middle. So next I'm going to use the Crackling Campfire and a chevron stamp. And I'm definitely stamping off the first ink up because I don't want it to be that dark. I want only the 2nd generation, the 3rd generation, perhaps even the 4th generation. So what you can see there, it's like, lighter. It's not as vibrant. It's not taking away from anything else going on the page. It's just a nice pop of color that's not too much. And so it matches lovely with the die cut part of the title that says Moonchild. And then you can see I'm bringing it outside of the rectangle a bit to make sure that I'm not just too linear here. Next, I'm going in with some splatter. This one is like a black with maybe some gold dust, and the other one is a mica spray from Tim Holtz, and it's aged bronze, I think. These are very thin. They're very thin, watery, so they come out a lot. So you can see it doesn't take much, and you just got to be happy with wherever the splatter falls. Or you could use a smaller paintbrush if you wanted. I have done that before as well. But I'm happy with that. I'm liking the grunge. I'm liking the way that looks. So I commit to sticking the photo down there. And then this title, I just cut this out of my Cricut. I welded, I got a free font from online. I typed out the words "Stay Wild," and then I welded the letters together. It's fairly basic in a Cricut Design Studio software. So I'm going to use my Nuva adhesive and stick them down. I did cut it out of another pattern paper that came out of the Cedar House 6x8 paper pad. And I am allowing it to overlap the negative space on my photo. So it gives cohesion to the page because everything's kind of touching, right? So everything is meant to go together and clustered together. So it may be a little bit weird if you're looking at it and you see that, the title goes across the page and you might want to think it says "Stay Moon Wild Child." It doesn't. I want you to read from left to right. "Stay Wild Moon Child." But anyway, if it seems that way, sorry, but I actually think that it's pretty self-explanatory to read it that way. So I hope my readers will think so as well. I did pick a couple of ephemera pieces out that kind of highlighted the colors that I used in the background. So I have a yellow butterfly, I have an orange butterfly, I have a vintage camera, a nod to the paper that I chose. These branches have yellow berries on them. And then I think that's all I end up with as far as the die cut ephemera that comes from that pack. It's got a very hipster vibe to it, very 2012 Mumford & Sons. What was my heyday? Let's be real. So I was here for this collection. So I'm just kind of clustering everything around. You can see they're all kind of touching each other or the photo. Again, everything's touching and overlapping to make it feel cohesive. I'm sticking down the rest of my title with the Nuva adhesive off screen. I do go around that black title with a black ink pen, and it just helps it pop off the page just the tiniest bit. And I even am able to write over the photo part that it's stuck on the photo, and it just really helps it stand out really well. So you'll see that in the final photos if you were wondering how I made it stick out anymore. Now I decide I need a little bit more going on at the tops and the bottoms, so I just cut off a little strip of the paper and I rough up the edges, but then the other side, remember, is a wood grain, and so I really like that. And since I have the wood grain on the middle of the page, I wanted to kind of fold over those roughed up edges just so you see a pop of that wood grain. And then I'm going to use the vintage camera paper and place it in 3 different places around the edges of the paper, and then visually pleasing odd numbers, so we have our 3, but also you see this repeating element of the vintage cameras. I have the vintage cameras in a few places, I have the die cut ephemera, I have the stamps, so I really feel like that helps bring the page together. And And I had a lot of fun playing with this and doing just mostly stamping on the background. That was really fun. I really always enjoy using that bubble stamp. I've done rainbow with the bubble stamp, and I like how versatile it is. So I was able to do a rainbow, like super cute page, but then also I'm able to do like a really grungy hipster page, and I just like how versatile that is. So basically the only thing else that I end up adding is a little bit of handwritten journaling. I felt like it was really natural to put it under that branch and that camera and then just run it in between that space and where I'm placing this paper right here. And so I just wrote that in some black pen, and I added my date stamp just to remind me what date that Wally came over, and just said a little bit of what we did. And I think that is about done. We're about on the layout. You don't watch me do the journaling, it is in the final photos. But I am on the Cherry blog today. So be sure to go over there and you can see all the details. All of the products will be tagged. I'll also tag or throw you some links down below if you would like to pick these up. I'll use my affiliate links down below. Oh, one more stamp. I have another smaller chevron stamp. So I ink that up with the Distress Oxide Soot stamp, black soot, and then I just place it around the page almost as if you were like sticking sequins down or like enamel dots. I'm just kind of picking the areas like I would choose where I would put those, the enamel dots and sequins. And that's kind of, I'm doing multi-generational stamping, so I have a lot of different dimensions, a little different depth of color. Just placing them around the page, and I just feel like that mimics the larger orange chevron stamp. It goes with the vibe of the hipster vibe that we have going on, and I'm really glad that I added that one little element. Pops of black are always good. They go with those splatters as well. So let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, I'll put the blog link down below, some affiliate links to these products. And yeah, if you have any questions about the process or anything at all, I'd love to hear from you. I love to get feedback from you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye, y'all.